Welcome to A New Era of Dentistry, the ultimate podcast for uncovering the latest trends, breakthroughs, and real-life stories in the dental industry, hosted by Ashley Bond with Wisdom, along with co-host Stephanie Neville. This podcast will explore hot topics, chat with industry leaders, and share the stories that are redefining how dental professionals enhance patient care and the dental practice environment. Let's get started and reshape the future of dental care together, one episode at a time.
Hello and welcome back to another episode of A New Era of Dentistry. I am so excited to have with me JJ, who is the co-founder and COO of Tuatara, which is a strategic finance agency serving single location dental offices. JJ believes strongly that the finance function is a catalyst for office growth and sustained success. She has a wide range of professional experience, includes experience from Fortune 500 and top 50 accounting firms to international startups, leading teams as large as 90 professionals. So what have you not done, JJ? Thank you for being here with us.
Well, thank you. I'm excited to be here. Thanks for having me.
Of course. So I'd love just to start off with, how can Tuatara help dental practices?
Well, thanks. That's one of my favorite things to talk about. Sometimes people are like, strategic finance agency. They're like, do you make loans? Like finance? Like, what is that? So when we say finance, we're talking about the finance function inside your practice. If you think about like a big corporation has a CFO, that's a chief financial officer. They run the finance department. So it's really taking information from your practice and giving objectivity through the lens of finance so that you have a really concrete way to look at different opportunities and problems in your practice. Really kind of that objective, like the big brother that's like, oh, you really can't spend that money or you really should. People always laugh with us because we very rarely ever tell anyone to cut costs, which usually they're like, finance, they should be telling you no. So when we tell you to spend money, you can feel confident that you're making a good decision because it's coming through that finance big brother that usually likes to say, no, don't spend any money. So strategic finance, we sit at the intersection of your operations team, your marketing efforts, and your accounting team, bringing all that information together to help you understand how you're growing, whether or not the experience that you're marketing to your ideal customer is being executed in operations, and whether all that effort is making you any money. So bringing all those pieces together in a really clear way, and Tuatara does that through reporting. So we have some really awesome management reports. So people are like, oh, I get reports from QuickBooks. What else do I need? I get a tax return. But these reports actually allow you to make business decisions with the information as opposed to just kind of staring blankly at these accounting reports that may or may not mean anything to you.
Oh, I love it. And do you help? Because, what we hear a lot from our dentists and clients is, I went to school for dentistry. We didn't go to school for, how to run a business. So it sounds like you're able to give those doctors kind of that training and peace of mind that, hey, I'm not on an island alone. My father made decisions and there was no one besides himself to help with the financial decisions. And so it sounds like you help those dentists just feel more confident, and it's objective. So you can take feelings aside.
Right, exactly. And so much, there is so many feelings in business. You and I both run businesses. There's so many feelings that come into play. And sometimes it's hard to kind of wade through that and say, well, what if this is just my feelings versus is this really a good idea? We love benchmarks in dentistry. So there's so many like, well, I'm at this percentage. Is that good or bad? And the reality is you don't know unless you have information that's for your specific practice. So that's what's nice about finance is it takes those benchmarks. It takes what's happening in your practice, all of the things that are special about your actual practice, and then it gives you information to help make decisions. So with our reporting, you just get comfortable with those numbers. The more comfortable you are, because again, like you said, they unfortunately don't spend a lot of time on this in dental school. So you have this lack of comfort. And when you don't understand something, it's really hard to use it. So when you get our reporting on a monthly and a quarterly basis, you get really comfortable with your practice, your numbers, your information, your opportunity. And then that leads to that exactly you described, the confidence in making those decisions because you're comfortable with what those numbers mean. It's so often we hear like, well, I look at my bank account balance and whatever that is, like, I know it's good or bad. And it's like, yes, but that changes. And there's so many other factors. What if it was as easy as checking your bank balance as it was to understand your business? And that's what we've set out to do with our reporting.
Well, I'm so glad that you're here because I wish I knew of you all when my father was still practicing, because he would run his anxiety level depended on his bank account. And so, I mean, very often would hear like, I'm usually this month around this, and I'm at this number, and something's not right. But there was no like concrete reporting. It wasn't objective. It was based, off of feelings. And it caused a lot of anxiety for a profession that already has a lot of anxiety in it.
Right. We don't need to borrow more. And that's where we've just, again, come to this concept of like, well, it's because you're not comfortable. If you're not comfortable with the information, if you can't read those reports, if you haven't learned how to do that. And so that's what we're setting out to do, is to teach you how to have those skills so that you can go, okay, this is a time to freak out. You're right. This is a problem. Or, oh, there was this unique situation. This timing thing happened. You're right. We're good. That number is going to correct itself, or it's going to change. And you have that comfortability so that you can be confident in making other decisions, as opposed to just like, the sky is falling, let's just stop everything. Because if you don't understand it, you don't know. And we've set out to make it easy to know.
That's great. And, I know you said benchmarks, and, benchmarks are such a hot topic in dental groups, Facebook groups. Another thing that, we've seen recently is about adding associates. Just the misinformation. There's so much information about associates. When's the right time? Is it worth it? Is it not worth it? How do you see if an office is ready to add an associate?
Yeah, that's a great question. And it's a conversation we're really enjoying kind of digging into, because there's so much around this. Dentistry is changing. The landscape of dentistry is changing. The practice that your dad ran would look totally different in this next 10 years than it did in his last 10 years practicing. So for kind of this new generation of dentistry, being in partnership or in an associateship with another dentist is going to become more and more common. Technology is expensive. If there's only one doctor producing on a CEREC versus two, you get a lot more ROI on that CEREC. So there's going to be a lot more conversation around this, but there's so much, like you said, misinformation on how to calculate this actual return. And there's a lot of factors to it. The two ways we look at it are, there are subjective decisions that need to be made around bringing in an associate, and then there are objective, which we bring in the finance piece. So subjectively, this is where you should be talking to other dentists. Consultants cannot explain to you what it feels like to bring in a patient and trust that patient with someone else in your practice, right? Like, consultants can't help you with what it feels like to get on the same page of standard of care. Those are not consultant answered questions. Get with your doctor friends on those. Find out what they've done, how that's worked. Think about your own goals, your own life. What is it you're trying to achieve by bringing someone else in? Does it make you really uncomfortable to have someone else in your space? Does it make you really uncomfortable to not have someone else in your space? How big is your space? Can what's your schedule going to have to look like to bring someone else in? All of those are subjective. Once you make that decision of like, yeah, I would like to bring someone in, it makes sense for my practice and my goals, but is it actually going to be worth it? Is the juice worth the squeeze? And so that's when we look at, we'll hear a lot of information about, my overhead is X and I pay the associate Y, so I only make the difference. And when that number is like 5 or 7%, and you go, oh yeah, that sounds like maybe not worth all this effort, right? So that's where we really look at, what is the incremental revenue? So when you bring in an associate, you don't apply your whole overhead to that, because you're not going to go rent another building. You're not going to go buy another machine. Those things are already there. So yes, there's going to be some incremental staff costs and things like that. And we walk through, we have a calculation that we walk folks through that is free to anybody that would like to have it. I'll give you that for the show notes. Anyone that wants that template can have it. But you walk through the actual incremental revenue that person can bring in, what it's going to cost to have additional supplies for that person, lab fees, the staffing, et cetera. And then you can actually see, okay, what does that person actually bring to the bottom line? And it's your information. It's for your practice. And so you can be confident that your situation, it's different than the doctor down the street, different than the doctor, that you may be talking to on the internet, your situation. And so then you can take that information and say, okay, well, for that, it makes sense or it doesn't. We often find that you will make about a third of the production that the new doctor's bringing in is what you'll actually bring home as the owner. That's not a bad day if you can increase what you're bringing home by a third of what the other doctor's producing. Very different, 33% versus the 7% you hear. Very different metrics. And then the other thing too is, you're going to have to spend any money to bring in an associate. It's not very common that you've got 9 ops that are just sitting there and you're using 4, and there's these other ops just sitting there ready for somebody else to come in, and they're already equipped and they're already plumbed and ready to go. And you've got 2 assistants in the back just waiting to ramp up. That's not usually the case. So we also walk practices through, like, what does it look like for you to bring someone else in? Are you just going to step back and have someone come fill in the hours for you? That's a different calculation. There's different profitability for that. But there may be reasons you want to do that. There may be lifestyle reasons or health reasons. There is also, what if you can just do like a small expansion? So maybe you have 5 ops and you've got a break room that's really kind of too big and the lobby's kind of weird, and you can knock down a wall and move some things around and add 2 ops for a relatively low cost. Or maybe your configuration is really strange and doing anything else is going to be totally unreasonable, and you've got to move the whole practice to consider this. Right. So layering all those pieces in for your particular practice and situation allows you, again, to decide, what does this look like while I'm taking on debt for this? How much debt can I take on? We like to use like gas gauges and kind of thermometer and temperature, that sort of thing. So we have a gas gauge that's like, this is green. This is a, no brainer, go, run straight to the bank, get the money, do this, all the way to like, nobody's going to lend on this. This is a terrible idea. do not move forward, and anywhere in between. So you can kind of get a feel of like, okay, and our model is really flexible. So you can play around and go, okay, well, if I can do make some changes, let me get $100,000 of equipment and do $250,000 of construction based on these rates. Here's what that looks like for me. Okay, now what am I really going to bring home? And you get down to the actual bottom line. Yeah. And then you decide for you whether or not that makes sense based on all the subjective things that you've already decided around having someone else in your space. So using both. Finance is never going to be able to stand on its own, and just, there's no number in that spreadsheet that is going to make it work for you or not work for you if subjectively it works for you or it doesn't work for you.
Right.
So it adds that layer to help you feel, again, confident about the decision that you're making.
Yeah, so they can make an educated decision, and it's not just based off feelings or fear of moving forward too. You can get stuck in both, like paralyzed that I shouldn't make a move because I don't know the numbers, or just jump into it without also thinking through it.
Right. Because, my friend did it and my friend made all this money. And it's like, yes, but your friend is in a totally different demographic, in a different specialty, with a different setup, with different debt, all of these things. Like, yeah, your friend's got a 2.5% interest rate on this building that they got when, prices were plummeting and all these things. Like, it's a different deal for them than it is for you. And so making sure that you use your own information. Again, back to that, getting comfortable with what your information shares, what your practice is doing, who your ideal patient is. Again, you may hear some great stories about how different you were adding some different procedures, and your friend added XYZ, and they brought in somebody to do this work, and then it didn't work for you. And it's like, right, because you're in a completely different brand position than they were. Right. So your patients aren't interested in those things. And so there's a lot that finance can do to kind of shine those lights and go, here's the opportunity and here's not. And that's something else in our reporting that I love, is you can see where there is that opportunity of, some people are like, I heard this great podcast about I can add perio and I'll make all this money. Right. It's like, well, that practice could. Your practice, on the other hand, there's only $16,000 of opportunity. If you were to maximize everything here, that's probably not your route. But up here, you've got $800,000 of opportunity in this space in your practice. Let's go after that. And that's why you don't hear Tuatara talking about cutting costs. You can only cut costs to zero. Right. You can't go further than zero. So for us, it's like, sure, don't be silly. If there's something like, where you're spending, maybe you've got 16 different subscriptions for, music in the office, and you maybe just need one. Right. Okay, fine, cut those out because that's just silly. But spending all the time figuring out whether or not the $25 XM radio is worth it versus going after the $800,000 that you have in potential revenue, those are just 2 totally different levers to pull. And we like to focus on the bigger levers than the small ones.
Yes. Grow the income. And you don't have to worry about as much cutting things. So
that's right. Yeah. Exactly. It's a lot more fun too. It's way more fun to help more people, to have, when the revenue comes in, you can share that with your team. Again, finance allows you to know what's a good way. I hear all the time, breaks my heart, these owners who are wanting to do great things for their team, and they want their team to share in their success, and they create these bonus plans and they end up upside down in them, and it creates turmoil in the office. Like, use finance to help you understand what type of bonus plan would work for you, what you can afford, what is going to incentivize your team, all those things. So each of those pieces, finance touches it all. You'll hear Tuatara talking about everything from helping, office managers and elevating their role, to bringing in associates, to creating compensation and bonus plans. because finance touches all of those things. You can use objective information to help make all of those decisions.
Well, and it's funny you brought up that, because I just saw in a Facebook group asking about how do we give bonuses? And that was something in our office too. Again, it was not off data. It was this dollar amount, maybe if we hit this number, maybe.
Yeah.
No clear guidelines. So that's great that you offer that for people as well.
Yeah. And helping the team understand too how they impact. So I've been in, we shared, I've been around the block. I've seen a few things. I've been in some different industries, and I was with a Fortune 500 company. We had massive investment in HR and bonus plans and structures and things. And we had this bonus opportunity for one of my associates on my team. And they looked at the metrics and they're like, I can't actually control any of this. And so while this was a really thought out plan and it had all these metrics and all these things, she looked at it and she was like, this relies on this person. This relies on this person. I don't have any control over this number. I can't make this happen. And it was actually demotivating to her. It was like a lottery thing for her. She's like, hey, if my numbers hit, I'll get paid. If they don't, they won't. And what a waste. The company was wasting money incentivizing her when she wasn't actually doing anything to change these numbers. And then she was actually like demotivated. She's like, well, that's a shame. I wish I could control this thing. And again, it was good natured. It came from a good place of sharing and, success, but people want to do things that they understand their impact and how they can move the needle. Generally people want to do a great job, and generally people want to help you succeed, and having information like finance that allows you to say, here's what we're working towards. Here's how you impact this thing. And if you do these things, this is what we have for us to all share and reward, is really, really powerful.
That really is. And it helps create that ownership too, that within the team, like you're always trying to create that we're all owning our departments. But it is hard. If your goals have nothing to do within your control, then it's very hard to own what you're doing. So I love that piece of the puzzle that you guys help put together.
Thank you. Yeah, it's fun. It all works together, right? So if you have you nailed it on ownership. If you're like, we're going after these goals and we're doing this thing and this is your baby, and it's like, great, how's it going? And they're like, I don't know. Well, but my bank account is what I use, and probably I'm not sharing that with you. And even if I am, you're like, so your bank account, but is this working? Is this thing over here we're doing working? And so giving people, we have our reports go to different audiences. And so we have reports that your office managers get so that they can own it.
Yeah.
So that your office, it's like, this is your thing to solve. Because so often dentists are famous for taking it all on themselves. I have to figure this out, and I need to run these reports. I need to figure out, and I need to dig in. And sometimes you do, but oftentimes you can empower and you can elevate your office manager, for example, to take on those things. You can potentially bring in an associate that has a different skill set than you have and allow them to take some of those things. But JJ, associates won't ever do anything in the business because they're paid on production. Right. What if you had a pay mechanism to pay an associate to also learn to work on the business? Yeah. What if that was a unique proposition that you could make in some people need it, some people don't. But what if you understood your situation enough to be able to say, hey, Ashley, let's work together. You said you want to learn this piece. I need someone to work on this. Here's how you're going to get compensated, so that you don't have to stress about being out of the chair and doing this for free and being frustrated. Here's how we're going to have a shared success model. This is what it's going to look like. You're going to learn and grow. I'm going to get the help I need. These things are all possible. And I think we're going to see so many more of these opportunities in the next 10 years in dentistry, because this is the direction that the industry is going.
Absolutely. Do you see that, back when I started, DSO was a bad word. And now though, we work with DSOs, love the DSOs that we work with, but I feel like it has also changed the mindset to be more business oriented. That has not been in dentistry. Do you feel like that wave of DSOs in private practice is maybe causing a bit of this, hey, we need to start knowing our numbers, and maybe also adding to being comfortable with having associates, where before I feel like it used to be more of the one dentist, one practice model.
Right. Again, I agree with you. DSO has kind of come in and out of whether or not, are they a villain or a friend, remains to be seen perhaps. But two things. One, I think we're going to see the language change around DSOs. I think we have lumped anybody that has more than one location, people are like, oh, DSO.
Right.
And it's like, there's so many different structures. There's so many different goals and objectives. There's so many different ways people are going into business in dentistry now. I hope we see some different vernacular there. I hope we start to get some better words to really describe what all of these different practices are doing, because there's a very large difference between, a doctor that has 4 locations and has set up a DSO structure to be able to have individual ownership at the locations versus, 10,000 location massive corporation. They're different things. So I hope we get some different language there. But I do think you make an excellent point that private, and we focus primarily on private practice, 1 to 2 locations. But I think what we're seeing that's a positive thing from the DSOs is that there are going to be trends and pressure that come into the space of the single location, 1 or 2 doc practices. That's going to be good for everyone. It's going to be good for patients. It's going to be good for pricing. It's going to be good for quality of life for these doctors. I think there's a lot of good things that will come. I do think we're going to see that 1 doctor locations are going to really have a hard time being profitable because, again, there's so many of these technologies now that are expensive. Mm-hmm. The more doctors you have using the technology, the better ROI you get on them, the more opportunities you have to serve your patients with them. So I do think that the trends in DSOs are going to, because DSOs see the value in investing in this technology, they have the scale to be able to get the ROI with the multiple doctors. So I think that is going to encourage more multi-doctor, single location. So still your Main Street dentist, still a pride of the small town and those sorts of things. But I think we're going to see a lot more in a very positive way. I think we'll see a lot more coming into those spaces of let's do this together. Let's kind of divide and conquer some of these things so that you can be competitive in a space that does have some consolidation.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's why our dental offices, they need you, honestly.
Yeah.
Because there's so, and I just love your membership model, because I think that, it's just not seen in this space. And I think it is a game changer for dental offices to have this type of membership, to work with someone like you that understands the finance and is able to bridge everything together to make sense. Mm-hmm. So I am so glad they are out there helping those private practices get the knowledge that they need.
Thank you. We're very intentional when we created this membership model because, to be fair, started in Fortune 500. From there, we were working with the large DSOs and large group practices. And to afford a finance function in your practice, to have someone like me that's working with you one-on-one, ongoing for multiple locations, et cetera, it's a very high ticket relationship, very high ROI, but still a very high ticket. So it's inaccessible for most single location practices, doctors who are trying to figure this out, maybe add 1 more doctor, things like that. And that's what dentistry in this country is built on, is these single location, smaller opportunities. The dental teams that work in those spaces, they all need this information. And so the membership was our answer to, there's not enough, even if every practice could afford it, which they can't, there's not enough CFOs in the dental space to actually support these practices. So we wanted to create an opportunity that every practice can afford to have finance in their practice in a way that they need it. Mm-hmm. And we have this membership allows you, again, that comfortability to be able to be confident in the decisions that you make, but do it in a way that works for your practice and that's affordable and that's approachable, so that you can learn these things and you can get comfortable, because no one's teaching it. And so we are hopeful that more and more practices will find it exciting and interesting to learn, and we are there for them when they're ready.
I love it. And I feel like a lot of people listening to this too are going to, especially single doctor practices, are probably thinking, should I be adding an associate now? Right. So I know you have a webinar coming up, and the tool that you guys have, that's a free resource. Tell us how we can join this webinar, when it is, because I think even if it's not on people's horizons to add an associate, I think everybody should get educated on, if the time comes, before something happens and you might have to make a quick decision.
Right. Absolutely. And we unfortunately, we've heard that. We've had practices we work with major medical surprises or major life changes, and they're not quite ready. So this is a great opportunity to just, again, play around. You can learn about this and you don't have to do anything with it. You're not required to go hire an associate if you listen to our webinar. We do have, and I'll share with you, anybody who wants to download the template to understand how to fill out your situation and see if adding an associate be profitable for you. Another cool thing is when you know your numbers and you know your situation, you can create a really compelling opportunity for an associate that's profitable for you, but also makes them excited to come and be a part of what you're doing. So November 22nd, we are going to be having a webinar where folks can join and learn about creating a compelling opportunity. So this is, again, where we're going to show you how finance in your practice can help you bring confidence to this decision. So when you understand your numbers and you know what's unique about your opportunity, then you can advertise and you can attract a certain associate. So there's things like relocation. So a lot of practices don't know that they can afford relocation. They don't understand the economics of bringing someone in. They don't know how quickly they're going to ramp. Those are all things that we go through in our template. So they don't know that they could really have a standout opportunity when doctors are going through and looking for their next opportunity. Well, we can offer relocation. Well, hold on, that's different. Not a lot of people are doing that. Or we can afford a 401k match. What's going on here? Paid sick leave. Hold on. Getting a 12-month guarantee. Okay. Like we're used to 3-month guarantees or none at all. How about an opportunity? And you'll see these. And I am a huge fan of some of these dental specific job boards. I think they're awesome. They do a great job. But you'll see sometimes these job ranges, associate pay range from $150,000 to $500,000.
It's quite the range.
I'm sorry, what? No. What if you can actually tighten that range and say, actually, our opportunity is $280,000 to $350,000.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that makes an associate go, wait a minute, they might know what they're talking about because they actually have this dialed in. Or maybe highlighting in your job description whether or not you're replacing someone that already has a full book of business, or you're coming in to a new opportunity where you're going to get to grow through marketing. And what if we told the associate what we were doing to get marketing, to get new patients in? Like all of those things can create a really compelling opportunity, and it allows you to bring in an ideal associate for you. So a lot of really cool things that are available there, and we'll be showing again how finance can help make that decision, make you comfortable with the information so that you're confident in the decision. So we'll be doing that at the end of November. So would love to have your listeners join in, totally free. The thing you'll see about Tuatara webinars is we pack the value we keep it under an hour, and it's the full solution. So there's no like, here's the first 2 steps and buy the next 3. Nope, we're giving you the whole deal because we want you to be able to have this information to make these decisions. We are passionate about getting your practice what it needs so that you can grow and you can have the lifestyle that you want and serve the patients well that you see. So we love to do these webinars. They're super fun for us, and we would love to have anyone that's interested in kind of learning or hearing about what a compelling opportunity could be. And compelling is for you too as the owner. So it needs to be compelling for you where you're not like, oh, I really don't want to hire an associate because I really don't know how this is going to work or if it's going to be worth it. So compelling for both of you. And we'll be going through those details November 22nd.
I cannot wait. And you guys give so many good tips and resources, like free. So everyone should go follow them on social media. I see, of course, in Dental Nachos, and I'm like loving your tips that you're putting in there. So thank you for just being giving to the dental world and dentists and owners. It makes me very happy to see. So thank you for doing that.
Thank you. I appreciate that. We work really hard at that, and we really do. We rise by lifting others. We want everybody to have access to this information, and we're really passionate about serving dentists, and we really do want to give everyone the tools at any size practice and any kind of whatever ownership structure you're working for, whether it's a DSO or whether it's single location. We want you to have the tools that you need to live the life that you want to, because we want dentistry to be attractive to people.
Yes.
We don't want and accounting is the same way. We have some struggles in our own PR about whether or not it's a good job to have, but we want to continue to create a safe space where dentists can feel confident that whether they want to own a practice, whether they want to be an associate, that they can be really comfortable that this is still a very, very great place to be. It's a profession that we need, and you can do it in a way that serves you and your patients.
Absolutely. And you can enjoy life now. You don't have to wait for retirement.
That's right. Yes. It doesn't have to be white knuckled the whole way through just to get to the end line. Exactly.
That's right. So I'll definitely put your webinar link in the show notes. And then what is the best place for dentist team members to get a hold of you?
Thank you. So we do hang out in the Facebook forums. You'll see us there, but also our website, Grow with Tuatara. We are all about growth and helping doctors grow, helping their teams grow, and then of course, helping their bottom line grow. So growwithtuatara.com is a great place to learn about us. And then we're also Grow with Tuatara, Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn as well.
Amazing. Well, thank you, JJ, so much for being on the podcast. I am so excited to join the webinar and just continue to learn from you. So thank you again for what you're doing in the industry.
Of course. Thank you.
All right. Talk to you all next time.
Thank you for joining us on today's journey through a new era of dentistry with your host, Ashley Bond. With wisdom in their network of industry leaders, each episode offers fresh insights and support in the evolving world of dentistry. Subscribe, stay tuned, and transform your career, practice, and patient experience. Until next time, keep innovating, keep caring, and stay smiling.